Hi, how's it going? The first paragraph of this was like a whole thing about like, oh, I haven't made a video in a while, but I just put out a Stranger Things rant. That doesn't apply anymore. This is the first year in a couple that I feel like I've kept up with movies at all well enough to make a video, so here we are. Let's get on with it, shall we?
As you call them.
This was hilariously one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I Think You Should Leave is one of the funniest things on TV, and the concept of essentially a feature-length sketch from that show sounds goofy. Friendship is pretty darn good. The filmmaking extrapolates a lot of the great things about what makes the show work. The camera work, lighting, and colors are very grounded, accentuating the mundanity of the world around Tim Robinson's character. The lighting in particular does a great job heightening the mood of scenes. There's warmth whenever Craig is bonding with his community, in contrast with the stark light of the more isolated moments. The story really is just a feature-length I Think You Should Leave sketch. Tim Robinson's character is a psychotic nightmare man in a pretty ordinary scenario who deteriorates the connections around him on the path to friendship. Tim Robinson obviously gives a great performance by playing the same role as he did for 3 seasons on I Think You Should Leave. There's a fun metatextual element at play, with famous oddball comedy actor Paul Rudd playing a very straightforward average guy alongside Tim Robinson's insanity. It is super difficult to shake how strange it is to see Tim Robinson in a semi-serious feature film. Like, Kate Mara is here, why is the crazy yelling guy here too? There's just an ambiance of weirdness at play in this movie. Even in the normal scenes, there's some discomfort. There's a point towards the end where you realize that it stopped being funny and started just kind of being scary, which is the point. The movie is exploring how a lot of fragile masculinity is the result of a lack of male connection. The bizarre choices made by the protagonist are always tied back to his fight for some kind of kinship with the main group of guys in town. This film works well as a companion piece to I Think You Should Leave, since it examines the Tim Robinson archetype to see why this type of person exists, and maybe what to do about it. Conor O'Malley wins the award for the most random cameo this year, and overall, Friendship is a lot of fun, especially if you're a fan of Tim Robinson's work. This was one of the first things I saw in theaters this year, and I really enjoyed it. The main thing to applaud this movie for is its visuals. It is stunning. The sets, the creature and ship designs, the colors, the shot composition. It is all top notch, per Bong Joon-ho's usual quality. The twin effects work pretty great here as well and are never outwardly distracting. The world building in general is very well done and never feels too overwhelming, but also never feels too sparse. The performances are very good. Standouts were Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, and Robert Pattinson because, come on. Special shout out to Steven Yeun for being a special little guy, as always. Man, I'm excited for Invincible Season 4. The political stuff isn't amazing in my opinion. It's pretty ham-fisted for Bong standards. Compared with Parasite, which is one of the best, most graceful critiques of capitalism I've ever seen, the fascism being lampooned here is pretty silly. Not necessarily bad, at the end of the day I had fun, but I'm not sure it gets the point across as well as it could. However, there is a certain level of cheek that exists pretty naturally in this movie, so it doesn't bother me nearly as much as something like Don't Look Up. The emotional stuff, however, works very well. Mickey Barnes is an extremely likable protagonist, and his struggle of finding a meaning to his own life is very powerful in my opinion. This movie made me feel some emotions by the end, I can't lie. Not nearly as great as some of Bong's other work, but a very fine movie in my opinion.
You, do you want a chicken nugget? Ew, that's disgusting.
I've been a fan of Ari Aster for a minute now. He sits in this camp of horror directors, kind of like Jordan Peele and Robert Eggers. All 3 of them make movies that have a ton of subtext and meaning beneath the main story, but also work on their surfaces as entertaining. And I think no other film in Aster's catalog exemplifies this as much as Eddington. In its face, Eddington is just a well-made movie. It stands out from Aster's other work in the fact that it isn't a horror movie, but it also stands out as another further evolution of his visual eye. There's some pretty fabulous shots in this movie, and several blood-pounding scenes that are aided by great sound design. There's good pacing and good editing. The way it uses the desert was pretty gorgeous throughout. Joaquin Phoenix has a pretty darn good performance as the lead role, alongside cosmic horror Pedro Pascal. I've rarely felt so diametrically opposed in moral standing with a character and still identified with them. That's really Joaquin's talent as a performer. He can make any character likable within the confines of the script. I would honestly owe the success of his Joker portrayal to that fact. It is interesting to see a film set explicitly and inseparably during the COVID-19 pandemic. There's overall been a culture of let's just move on about 2020, and there's something fascinating about exploring that year in retrospect. The most dividing aspect of this movie is its political messaging, or I guess lack thereof. It really is make or break of the movie for several people. Some people wanted it to pick a side during the film, the pseudo-conspiratorial right-wing sheriff or the woke liberal Black Lives Matter kids. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm really glad the movie stays neutral. It would be very cringe if it tried to make either side seem technically correct. Instead of being gross and preachy, it decides to just show the way it was then, and moreover how little has changed 5 years later. Eddington will definitely be defined by how well it ages, but for now, it's very entertaining, well-crafted film.
They're all incredible insects. Just watch what they can do.
This is the third film in the Emma Stone Yorgos Lanthimos cinematic universe, and I liked it a lot. It's kind of nice to see Yorgos make a movie that's a little bit lighter. Lobster, Sacred Deer, Poor Things are all big dreary films that I definitely enjoyed, but Bugonia is just kind of silly, and I enjoy silly movies made by talented people. Any question about Yorgos' visual capabilities should have been left at the latest with Poor Things, but definitely here. It's gorgeous. There's an excellent use of sets and lighting, create that hostage situation tension. There's a great aura of surrealism at play. I liked the bees. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone are both great in this film and explore two very interesting archetypes in our current dystopia. I really appreciated some of the things this movie explores with them. I like that Yorgos really humanizes the conspiratorial characters and kind of dehumanizes the CEO. In a pretty fun way. The third act is one of the most bonkers conclusions to a movie this year. The final scenes are outrageous in the best way possible. I wanted to keep this segment kind of vague because part of the impact of this movie are the great twists, but Bugonia was awesome.
That's just weak songwriting. You wrote a bad song, Petey.
Wes Anderson is my favorite director, if you couldn't tell from my skin color. Which is why it's so weird that his latest work didn't crack the top 5 on this list, especially since Asteroid City was in my top 3 for 2023, and French Dispatch might be one of my favorite movies ever. I'm chalking that up to a few things. First, the obvious fact that the top 5 are very, very good. But also, Phoenician Scheme is just not as complicated or audacious as French Dispatch or Asteroid City. Those two films are pretty experimental and unique, and in a lot of ways, this feels more like a return to form. Phoenician Scheme is a more standard Anderson joint. A dysfunctional family learns to love each other again through wacky circumstances. There's nothing wrong with that. I fell in love with Wes's work because I identify with these themes, but this isn't exactly the layered, complex work of French Dispatch. But it is still pretty damn awesome. The cast is full of pretty great performances across the board. This one had excellent makeup and costuming to create some of the weirdest characters in the entire Anderson filmography. Specifically, Michael Cera made me question where he's been this whole time. I loved the moments of black and white cinematography set throughout, and this film had perfect usage of Bill Murray. Phoenician Scheme definitely didn't tone down the Wes Anderson-ness at all. Visually, it pushes his style just as far as his most recent works, and I would argue it's one of his funniest films, period. Overall, tons of fun, but just not quite as show-stopping as the next 5 films.
Oh, man! Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face.
I think this placement is going to get the most criticism because this is kind of the cinephile darling this year, and from a craft standpoint, I get it. PTA is obviously a legend of the industry, and as far as camera work, shot composition, editing, music, color, and lighting go, he hasn't lost his touch at all. There's tons of energy going all over the place. Just from a technical standpoint, it is great. DiCaprio, Benicio, and Regina Hall are all great and charming. However, as far as performances go, I think Sean Penn definitely steals the show. He's obviously pretty frightening, but I'm glad that he's written to be kind of pathetic. A character like this could easily turn into a weirdo white boy idol like Tyler Durden, but he's just so gross that it repels. Easily the most hateable villain of the year. The script is super fun and the twists, even when predictable, are effective. It's impressive how well PTA develops this father-daughter relationship without them being in the same room for most of the film. I'm a sucker for revolutionary stuff, and for the most part, this film makes the rebels look cool as fuck, except for Leonardo DiCaprio, but that's the whole point. With all that said, one thing that elevated the next 4 was just the pure excitement and cinematic joy they injected into my veins, which I just didn't quite get from this. But yeah, pretty great stuff.
May whoever did this die 1,000 deaths.
This is good-ass filmmaking. Wake Up Dead Man is one of Rian Johnson's most well-made films. He uses shadow and light expertly to set the tone of scenes. The background details are on point in this one, as always. There's this great visual motif of spying, both through cracks in doors and windows and even just framing shots to partially obscure characters to obtain that effect. The colors pop, and there's just excellent shots littered throughout this film. Josh O'Connor is definitely my favorite lead of this series so far. Ana de Armas's character in the original is wonderful, but Judd pushes the story more than any protagonist has. He is almost infallible in his good-naturedness, to the point where he tries to turn himself in for a crime he didn't commit. But we also never lose this humanity in O'Connor's performance. He isn't perfect, but he's striving to do the best for people. Judd also challenges Benoit in a way that neither of the others did. Blanc has always been framed as a bastion of wisdom, which makes it all the more special that he is forced to re-examine his perspective in this film. The final reveal at the end is one of the best scenes in the entire franchise, and it has a lot to do with the growth in Blanc and Judd's characters. I loved Ryan's themes about religion, both how it can be corrupted for power and how it can be healing and uplifted when wielded by someone who wants to do good. There are several great scenes between O'Connor and Josh Brolin's Monsignor Wicks that create a very stark contrast in how motive drives these characters and the archetypes they represent. There's also just a neat tapestry exploring the topic of religion throughout the ensemble. The film explores the intersection of religion between politics, the internet, disabilities, and familial dynamics in pretty interesting ways. The way this film plays out in the final act is absolutely incredible. It's unbelievable what Rian Johnson can get away with placing in plain sight. Mapping this mystery loosely onto the Easter story is also an excellent touch. The dialogue is just as witty and fun as ever. The ensemble cast is pretty awesome in this one, especially Jeremy Renner and Glenn Close are standouts. I'm not prepared to make a grand statement of where this ranks among the other Knives Out films. I definitely prefer it to Glass Onion, but I still think the themes of the first may be more timeless, and the novelty of Rian Johnson's take on mysteries really rests with the original. But Wake Up Dead Man is, if nothing else, a worthy successor to the series.
Hold them, kids! I'm coming to rescue the lot of you!
One battle after another in Wake Up Dead Man might be better movies, but dude, this movie gave me a feeling afterwards that I've rarely felt before or since. I implore you to watch this blind if you can, because it will take you for a ride. This isn't an original statement, but horror movies in general don't scare me. It takes a special filmmaker to get those spooky chills going for me, and Zach Kreger is one of them. Weapons is electric. Perfect mix of mystery, comedy, and horror to make the film feel effortlessly smooth and exciting. Kreger is masterful at creating disgusting amounts of tension and fear, both within scenes and across the film as a whole. It was an excellent choice to make the opening segment about the main female character to weaponize the natural fear that comes with being a woman. And it was an even more excellent choice to make the final segment that brings it all together about the child at the center to replace the tension of the mystery with the tension of a child in a dangerous situation. It's hilariously obvious to do this when you think about it, but then again, plenty of movies don't bother. The running is such a strange and concerning choice that does a great job at unnerving. Zach Kreger really likes turning loved ones against each other, which is apparently the way to freak me out. Weapons overall looks fantastic. Well shot, well edited, plenty of delicious long takes, and super kinetic action scenes. The characters are all pretty enjoyable in their own right. Specifically, Josh Brolin and Benedict Wong were great. Amy Madigan freaks you the fuck out with her performance, and the makeup and costume design are great. The main complaint I've seen leveled at this movie is the lack of any message or theme, especially in regards to school shootings, which is the main metaphor that can probably be placed on this film. And I would agree that it really isn't making a grand statement or preaching anything in particular, but as we've discussed with Eddington, I'm not that worried about it. I think this film is just exploring mass trauma in general, not really making a claim, just showing what happens to people enduring that trauma. But also, Zach Kreger just likes horror and mystery, and in a lot of ways, this is just a love letter to small-town horror. I think regardless of themes, there's a value in a film that just puts together an engaging mystery with fun characters and effective scares. And at the end of the day, I can't argue with my gut, which is why Weapons is so high up here. It might not hold up as well in a rewatch, but for now, I really liked it.
I had my visual artist actually work on this for 6 months. Orange Blimp.
I mean, yeah, the hype is real. This could potentially be another one that is very much influenced by my in-the-moment feelings. Marty Supreme is one of the most adrenaline-inducing films I've ever witnessed. Despite its huge runtime, it never really feels like it loses pace, at least to me. There's excruciating panic and anxiety woven into every scene of this film. The filmmaking on display here is top-notch. The editing, the cinematography, the color grading, the costuming, and especially the music are sensational. The script is hysterical and has a nice touch of the surreal. This vision of New York is an absolute nightmare, and I love it. There's a tumbling down the rabbit hole vibe that is very enjoyable. The make or break of this movie is 100% Marty Mauser. If you don't like Marty or can't get on board rooting for a character like him, you aren't going to enjoy this film. That's just the truth. This film does not diverge from his perspective at all, and Marty is very questionable.
He said he loves Diddy.
He does some pretty heinous things throughout the movie in the name of following his table tennis dreams that can be pretty repulsive. I understand if that's the thing that pushes you away. To me, this really only highlights how excellently crafted this script and how good Timothée Chalamet's performance is. I was on board pretty much the entire time. Even in moments that showed Marty's true terrible colors, there's a magnetic quality to his demeanor that despite himself, I wanted him to succeed. Time is definitely going to tell with this one, but from my perspective, Marty Supreme Christmas Day is one of the best films of the year.
Chicken jockey.
Made this an honorable mention because it would be silly of me to talk about filmmaking 2025 and not mention this monstrosity. I have somehow seen this shit twice. Something only true of one other film on this list. I saw it in theaters and watched the meme-along version at home, and I had a blast both times. The cinephile and cynic in me wants to hate this movie with all my soul. Minecraft movie as a concept is slop content, but the execution is f***ing over the precipice of slop. But at the same time, the human being in me couldn't help see the genuine joy and light it brought to the internet for a good month or two. Despite the stupidity, despite the chicken jockey bullshit, despite how absolutely atrocious this movie is, it did help a bit in staving off the death of the entire industry, so for that, I give it props. Never watching it again, though.
Oh, fuck yeah! This is the shit!
I knew leaving the theater this was going to be my favorite movie of the year. Sinners hit a home run in a way that I didn't think was possible at all. How do you make a period piece, action, drama, musical horror film that has a large ensemble cast and a good chunk of lore? How do you juggle all those seemingly conflicting roles and tones and genre trappings into one fully realized piece? The answer is that your name is Ryan Coogler, I guess. It cannot be overlooked the way the visuals kind of pull this whole thing together. To me, it's what helped create a sense of coordination when the genre switched up. The visual style is very sure-footed and keeps the focus pure. With that said, this movie looks incredible. The color grading is very reminiscent of Django Unchained and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, both of which the film takes a good chunk of inspiration from. Super well lit, outdoor photography is a lost art, and the outdoor scenes in this film all look very sharp. This film only looks better and better as the sun goes down, which is exactly how I like it. The performances across the board are pretty top notch. Michael B. Jordan is so f***ing good in this movie that I unironically questioned if he had a twin brother for a hot minute in the theater. It's hard not to get lost in the performance, and he deserves all the flowers he better get this award season. But pretty much every performer in this movie is great and really brings it to life. This movie does phenomenal work with its vampires. I think it was a brilliant choice to basically keep them a secret in the marketing. There are decades of baggage with vampire movies and vampires in general, and by keeping them a twist of sorts, Ryan Coogler is able to introduce them on his own terms in one of the best scenes in the movie. The main vampire is an exceptional villain that I can see going down in history as an all-time great someday. The music is phenomenal, both the score and the fantastic original soundtrack. There's a specific scene about halfway through the movie that is one of the best scenes of the decade so far, owing majorly to the fantastic music. This movie's just such a gem. It's the perfect example of just having all the little pieces be super solid and create a wonderful final product. Maybe this isn't the actual best movie of the year, but damn it, this knocked it out of the park so hard that I couldn't help but consider it my favorite. And that was my top 10 of 2025. If you disagreed or want to just share your own top 10 or something in the comments, comment, press the hype button. I don't really know what it does, but press it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and get hyped because I'm working on some stuff later down in the pipeline. Keep your eyes open for some community posts coming up. Just some questions about the future of the channel if you care about that type of thing. I'll see you in the next one.